Hi, welcome to NDE TV. I'm Peggy Robinson. Today's guest is Stacey Piedrahita. Is that right?
You got it, girl. Yes.
Okay. And you're going to tell us about your near-death experience today.
I am. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on.
Absolutely. Last year, April 24th, I was in critical condition. I was requiring 24/7 care. And that day, I had declined to the point where, excuse me, I realized that I felt like I was going on my way out. And I had the most peaceful feeling. For some reason, I wasn't afraid. So I said to my husband, and of course, the minute I would speak about death or dying, everyone would shut it down. No one would acknowledge my feeling. So I said, if something happens to me tonight, just get my journals out. Because I was bedridden. I was in bed. What else was I going to do? I was literally on my way out on my deathbed.
Had you been ill for a long time?
So what happened was, ever since March 26th, I went into the hospital and they didn't know what was wrong with me. And the doctors kept throwing pills at me. And I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for 27 years. And my body was shutting down from all the toxic medications. I was put on an immunosuppressant for rheumatoid arthritis. But I did not realize this. So when I left the hospital, by the love of God, I was able to see a functional medicine doctor. He took one look at me on April 13th, a week prior to my near-death experience, and said, "You're being poisoned." And I said, "Come again? Excuse me?" And he said, "The medications in your body are shutting down your system. You need to get to the root cause." And I'm like, oh my God. So as soon as he said this to me, I started doing my own research. I realized that my breast implants were poisoning me. So I literally was poisoning myself. He was 1000% right. So yeah, so I was sick, but I couldn't do anything about it. It's not like I could call a surgeon and say, "Can you please take my tits out?" You have to make an appointment. You have to tell them you're almost dead before someone will see you.
Had you had those in for a long time?
Yeah, 16 years, and it caused the most unbelievable depression, anxiety. It was a nightmare. The minute they were removed, spontaneous remission along with my near-death experience. It was, if I did not survive it, I would not believe it, to be honest with you. It was that life-changing. Yeah.
So you got the implants and you just started getting sicker and sicker and
4 months. But I didn't, here's the thing. I did not know any of this until my near-death experience. The night my near-death experience happened, every puzzle piece was aligned. Like, I'm like, why? Why did I go through the trauma? Why was I diagnosed? It was like, the pity party that all women throw for ourselves. Why did I get sick? And he literally said this was a stepping stone. This was your path to take. So every question that I ever had was answered that night. But the amazing thing is, I didn't have your typical near-death experience. I had a spontaneous awakening, spontaneous remission. And the minute my implants were removed, because as soon as I woke up on April 25th, I said to my husband, "I'm going to be healed." He looked at me like I had 7 heads because I was in critical condition. And again, I'm a nurse, 27 years. I know my body. I know enough background to know that I was on my way out. And then my near-death experience happened, the light, and I can't even explain the unconditional joy I felt. Never in my lifetime have I experienced a love of that magnitude. I get chills when I talk about it now because after my near-death experience happened, I'm like, that had to be a dream. What the hell was that? But I wanted to go back to that fantasy land.
So you were like in the hospital, critical condition, and then suddenly you were in a light?
No, I was home. The hospital didn't believe anything was wrong with me. They couldn't find anything wrong with me because they did not believe that my implants were poisoning me. Now remember, I was in the hospital for 8 days, 4-day stints 2 times. The day I left the hospital, I went to my functional medicine doctor, and he's the one that told me I was being poisoned. Western medicine, the hospital couldn't, my labs were all normal. Every test was normal. I was told it was anxiety and depression. Go see a therapist. They couldn't find anything wrong with me, but yet I couldn't move. I couldn't walk. It's all documented. My blood pressure, the minute I got out of bed, 200 over 170. And the worst part is I'm a nurse. Not that I deserve anything more than anyone else. I'm in healthcare. And the fact that I was in the hospital and they would walk into my room, my blood pressure is sky high or whatever, and they're telling me, oh, you need to calm down, you need to feel anxious. I'm like, I'm not anxious, assholes. Find out what is wrong with me. I'm perfectly sane. Something is wrong with my body. 16 years I was told it's anxiety, it's depression, go see a therapist.
Even when your blood pressure is that high.
And not only that, the night before I left the hospital, the week prior to my near-death experience, I had a nurse, a cardiac nurse, which is so sickening to me. This is her specialty, walks into my room to give me my blood pressure pills. I've never been on blood pressure medication before. Now I'm on 3. And she's like, oh, here's your pill. Are you going to check my blood pressure? Oh, I see it on the monitor. I'm like, are you not aware that blood pressure fluctuates? Can you please take my blood pressure? It was 90 over 60. 90, she would have killed me. The fact that I'm a nurse, I knew better. How many people don't? And not because they're ignorant, they just don't know. They don't know. I'm a nurse for a reason. That is sickening to me. So I was done. I got out of the hospital and then I just got worse and I was bedridden. And the minute my near-death experience happened that morning, it was like this light infiltrated my heart. My chakras opened up, everything aligned. And I looked at my husband, I'm going to heal. A week later, I had my implants taken out by the love of God, divine intervention. They had a cancellation at the last minute. That was a nightmare in itself. And May 7th, the minute I woke up from surgery, I took my first deep breath. And to this day, every day is a gift. I see the beauty in the flowers, everything shifted in 1 week. I've had such an unimaginable life-altering experience that how could I say it was a dream? Because I live it every day now. This is my life. My life is magical because of my near-death experience, because of everything I've went through. I'm no longer that victim. I'm no longer that person who's on these medications. I'm off everything, every medication, everything.
So what happened while you was in the white light?
I saw, well, first of all, I met God. I met my God. I realized that God is in my heart. And I was trying to believe in a God outside of my own body through the church, through organized religion. That didn't work for me. And so I said to God, I'm sorry, because 4 years ago, I'm going to be 4 years sober in April. And 4 years ago, I walked into church really for the first time. And I said, please help me. I'm lost. And I tried for 1.5 years. I read the Bible. I did everything I could just to become a better person, because my heart was pulled to do better and be better. I never had that inner peace. So I felt very guilty when COVID hit, the lockdown happened. I went back into this, my own little, space. And I said, I don't have that inner peace. So I said to God, I'm sorry. I couldn't understand the whole, the connection with Jesus in my heart. And he said, no, everything was just like, he said, stop, just be happy, live your life, make your own rules, be a good person, serve, give back. You have everything you need, go. What do you want me to do? Be the change you want to see, go. But I have more questions. Wait, I'm not done yet. Please, give me more, God. So every question that I asked, and he just gave me the answers. He gave me the answers. And then I met a couple of my spirit guides. I'm very spiritual now. I'm a spiritual healer, spiritual teacher, whatever you want to call me, a medium. I don't like the labels. I'm just happy. I'm friggin' happy. I chose happy, but everything just changed and it was miraculous. And I don't know anyone who's had this experience because I was thrown into this world. Like after my spiritual awakening, after my near-death experience, there was nothing, there was no darkness. There was not 1 minute of darkness for 90 days, not one moment of darkness. I was bedridden in bed, living this life beyond anything I could have ever dreamt of. It was a fairy tale life. And it's just, I don't know. I was ready. I guess I was ready to move into the next chapter of my life because this love, this peace that I have for Stacey is like nothing I could put into words. And I can't find the book. Who's had this happen to me? Can anyone tell me what the hell's happening? I had no one to explain what was happening. So went online. I went down the Google rabbit hole and I invited such darkness into my life because I was confused. I couldn't find anyone that I could trust that had a good, pure heart that would say, Stacey, you're awakening. It's okay. I'm here for you if you have a question. It's not like I could call Esther Hicks on the phone and say, hey, Esther, how you doing? Come talk to me. I can't. So I had a Kundalini awakening. I had a spontaneous Kundalini awakening in November and December. That was my true awakening. It was so much better than my near-death experience. I could have done, but the Kundalini awakening was what really catapulted me into this enlightened world that I'm like shitting glitter. Like seriously.
What brought that on?
My trauma. So this is terrible. I seriously can't believe I'm saying these words, but in order for me to heal after my near-death experience, I had to come to terms with my past. I had to come to terms with my trauma. I had significant trauma ever since I was 9 years old. The minute I started addressing my trauma, the diseases started disappearing. The meds started disappearing. I'm like, oh my flipping God, I don't have to put on the damn electric blanket for an hour to get out of bed. I popped out of bed. It was miraculous. It's like what Dr. Joe Dispenza said. I had this spontaneous awakening and remission. What I learned from Dr. Joe Dispenza. By the love of God, I found this man who's a neuroscientist. I didn't know who he was a year ago. I didn't know who Wayne Dyer was a year ago. All these people were brought into my life after my awakening. It led me to my Kundalini awakening because I meant to teach this. It's the only thing I can say. I'm on this enlightened path right now that God illuminated. I'm just following that path. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Now you turned this into a business, your awakening. And
I did, but I don't want it. I don't want it. I'm having fun. I don't want it. I don't want the business. I spent money because I'm now a Reiki master. So I gave up nursing. I've been a nurse for 27 years. I'm like, I'm done. I'm done. I'm having fun the rest of my life. I've never had fun. I was traumatized. I was a victim of my circumstances. I am fucking having more fun than I've ever had. And I gave up the business. I didn't want it. So I'm sharing my story. I'm writing books. Yesterday, I shot my first magazine cover in the UK. I'm on the cover of a magazine. I'm like, what?
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Remember Sandra Bullock in Miss Congeniality?
Yeah.
She's like an FBI agent pretending she's a beauty queen. That was me yesterday. I'm like, I'm not a fucking model. I was having so much fun, but I was pinching myself because we went to the butterfly museum and the butterflies are flying all around me. I wear them on my wrist. They're my grandparents. And it was the most magical moment of my life. It was magical. It's everything they say it is. So
I bet you're still walking on clouds, aren't you?
Oh my gosh.
I know that feeling.
But it's constant because as with you, with the near, I can shift into a higher level of consciousness at any moment of any time. It's a beautiful way to go through life. It's very isolating because no one understands this. No one. Yeah. But it had to happen that way because I'm literally my own little walking show. Like I haven't.
What did the magazine want to address about you?
My transformation.
Okay.
It's the spring issue. The theme is transformation. And the publisher saw my story and she's like, I would love to have you write an article. And I'm like, sure. I mean, it was amazing. And then she said, I would love for you to be on the cover. And I'm like, what? Okay, sure. And I just went with it. I told my ego to shut the fuck up. I'm sorry if I cursed, but I was like, no, you're not going to take away this moment. So I enjoyed every stinking moment, and I'm going to enjoy it the rest of my life because it was an experience that I'm like pinching myself still. Magical.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
So when did you write your book?
I wrote my book last summer. It's a multi-author book. 6 days after I had to resign from my nursing job, I was in leadership. I was up for a director of clinical operations position. And I had to resign from that position, and it broke my heart because I loved this nursing job. And 6 days after I resigned, the publisher reached out to me. She's a multi-author publisher. She writes books in Australia. It's the Art of Grace Publishing House. And it's all about women that inspire and empower women all over the world, finding the light in the darkest places. And this is it. I'm number 13, which is one of my lucky numbers.
Yay.
But it became an international bestseller in 8 countries in 22 categories in 24 hours.
That's awesome.
So
And 27 years in nursing and just resign. I mean,
done. I spent 27 years saving lives. The year 26, the year I saved my own life, was the year everything changed. And this is 27.
so you're up for a promotion and you just say, scratch that, I resign.
Well, I was half dead. I had no choice. Remember, I was up for this promotion a year ago. So I was going into last year, 2021. I am getting this promotion. This is my path. This is my journey. I'm all about leadership and empowering women. And I was like, yes, 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 yes. On March 26th, God had other plans. And I ended up in the hospital.
I'm just having trouble following the timeline of events here. So
no, so in March 26th, when I ended up in the hospital on the 27th, I had to resign 3 months later because when I recovered from my near-death experience and my surgery, I tried going back to work 20 hours a week. Nope. I started developing anaphylactic reactions 7-8 times a day. God was like, oh, honey, no, you're done with nursing. Okay, well, what am I supposed to do? Please help me here. And 6 days later, the opportunity landed in my lap. And now I'm doing podcasts and I'm, speaking. I mean, it's just amazing. It's amazing.
Any thoughts of lawsuit on the implant company?
So here's the problem. And I was so upset about it because I was interviewed by ABC News. And the lady, I was 3 weeks after my surgery and I still had the drains coming out of my breasts, which, 3 weeks later, I had a lot of complications. And ABC News came to my house and they did my story. And she's like, wait a minute, are you telling me that you were on these heart medicines and you never needed them? Yes. Well, when the article was on the news, nothing was mentioned about that. It was literally like I recovered from a cold. And I was like, are you kidding me? My life matters to me. There are women in this world that have implants that are diagnosed with autoimmune diseases that have no clue. No, my story was not told. I was furious. I was angry because I'm like, are you kidding me? I need to do this for other people. Take my life out of it. Just for women that are suffering like I did all my life from anxiety and depression when it was all my trauma. Now, I'm not saying that autoimmune isn't real, but in my case, I healed myself. I'm off all of those toxic meds that almost killed me. But yeah, when my story was, it was like, really? Like I had a cold. I was very angry, but my anger turned into empowerment. And I said, you know what? Then I have to tell my story by myself. And that's what I'm doing.
Good for you. A lot of people wouldn't have hung in there and just would have went in that depression or back to drinking or.
I have to speak my truth. There is no coincidence in this life. The title is Intuitive, Speaking Her Truth. come on, I have to speak my truth. Mental illness is huge in my family. My Kundalini awakening was batshit crazy. It took all I had not to go into a mental hospital because I was hallucinating. I was awakening. No one could tell me, Stacey, you're awakening. Let it go. It's okay. On New Year's Eve, I found, by the love of God, again, he brought everything into my life. I'm so spiritually in tune with my inner power that every step is presented to me. He showed me a book on Amazon about a spiritual awakening crisis. And I'm like, I'm not batshit crazy. I'm having a spiritual crisis. It's an emergency. My Kundalini got stuck in my solar plexus and I had to unblock it myself. And the minute I unblocked, the light bulb went off. I meditate now and I see the light. I have the rainbows. I see the chakras. I live my life in color. And it shifted because I found my worth. I processed my trauma and I'm like, oh my God, what I have survived. My story will be heard.
Did you talk about your trauma in your childhood in your book?
I did. And that's actually what triggered CPTSD, because I thought, and big mistake, I'm willing to own up to my mistake because people need to see how real trauma is. Because I talked about it, I thought I was healed. Oh man, I was wrong. The minute I started getting those reactions, God said, you need to disconnect. So my husband and I went camping for literally 6 months. We traveled, we went camping. I got lost in nature. That's where I connected with God. That is where I was healed. The trees, the flowers, the water, the serenity of the solitude of being in nature. That's where I healed. This has always been my path. I just had to say, I'm giving up control. Yes, I screwed up. I'm acknowledging my trauma. When I started doing that, I started feeling the emotion of my past and actually living in that trauma. I processed it. And I said, it's time to fucking go, get out.
See, I think that's what people don't realize. You know, they say like talk therapy, like tell, you know, your views. Well, I would tell mine just like I was reading a grocery list. There was I wasn't feeling it because I was numb back then when these things happened.
Yes.
And so I didn't know how to have a reaction to them. And when I wrote my book, that's when I started having the feelings. I would stop right in the middle of a page and lean back and tears would come down my cheeks. I cried a tear for me.
Yes.
You know, I cried a tear for that little girl, for that teenage girl, for that young mother. I was mothering them. I could feel compassion instead of I'm holding all this and it must be my fault and I just need to keep quiet about it. It took it out of me.
Yeah. You totally get it. You totally understand. When my book was launched, Peggy, I cried for 5 days. All of my trust and abandonment issues came back like I was hit by a semi truck. And I was like, I'm a nobody. I don't matter. Because I've been on my own pretty much since I was 9. I was raised by Holocaust survivors. My mom was in and out of institutions. I was afraid of crazy. The minute I acknowledged my crazy and I said, you deserve to cry. You deserve to honor, like you said, your inner child. I was brave enough to give myself the love I never received because I didn't believe I deserved it.
Right.
It shifted everything and I've healed myself. I'm off all the supplements that the functional medicine doctor put me on. I don't need that garbage.
Yeah. It's like you stop seeing yourself through their eyes.
Yes.
And what they thought, and you now see it through your eyes as
Beautiful.
This compassionate person who could feel for this child.
Yes.
And it's like you're witnessing it now. Like before you were just feeling it, but now you can witness. Like that shouldn't happen to her. And her is you.
Me.
But it helps remove her from you.
Yeah.
It's strange, isn't it? It's a very strange thing to go through.
So I have a tip for people because like I said, I was a spiritual teacher. I started this Reiki business and I was like, I wanted to heal the world because this is what I was being called to do. Again, I put the highest expectations on myself. It's ridiculous. But anyway, So what I ended up doing was I started trauma therapy 18 months ago, EMDR therapy, which is critical for saving my life. So the biggest gift I could give myself was therapy. And I have my amazing husband who I was safe to allow him to help me process my trauma. I did not feel safe in my first marriage. My first husband was an amazing man, but he didn't believe in anxiety or depression. I had the mask. I was not safe. I had to be like this perfect girl without a hair out of place. Exhausting. It was exhausting. So with my husband, I said, you know what? I don't know, you want to call it a breakdown? I don't give a shit what you want to call it. Let's call it what it is. It was a breakdown. I was working 70 hours a week at the job I loved, and I lost it. And I said, I have to heal myself. I have to give because I was feeling numb. There's a reason I'm going to be 4 years sober in April. I numbed everything for 45 years. I was so sick. No wonder I was so sick. No wonder I was so sick, you know? And it was, see, and that is the thing with the brain fog. I still have COVID. I still have COVID brain fog. That shit is real. I can't remember what I was just saying.
Well, I didn't have COVID, but I have the fog.
Double that and double that. But anyway, oh shit, I don't remember. I have to write stuff down otherwise, because I channel as well. So I get messages when I was doing Reiki on people. I'm like, why am I hearing this shit? You know, Whoopi Goldberg from Ghost, she didn't want it, but she had it. Right. It's like, what am I doing with this? But now I'm learning as I go. I'm literally learning as I go.
It's a hard thing to learn to listen to that.
Yes. And when you have no one that understands, that's why I went batshit crazy. Oh, that's what I was going to say. So 18 months ago, I gave myself the gift for Stacey, self-love. Let's learn to love Stacey. 4 years ago, I didn't give a shit what anyone thought. You know, I've been an admin of Facebook groups, uplifting women to recover from autoimmune disease through laughter, gratitude, and positivity. This is in my blood. I've been doing this, but I never healed myself.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And like, you know, I was in helping professions throughout my career, and I could help everybody. But then one day we had a traumatic event, and suddenly I need to help myself. And I had no clue. Absolutely no clue. I could jump in your life right now, and I would write you a case plan and get you hooked up with services, and I would get you taken care of.
Yep.
Me, I was lost. I went back into this little girl, this teenage girl, this broken person that was just weak and whiny and helpless.
That's what it was. Inner child healing. Thank you. Inner child healing. So I have a doll. I'm into numerology as well. So this doll I found, and she was meant to be my doll. And I was like, what am I supposed to do with this doll? You know, I'm 54 years old playing with dolls. Okay. How's this going to happen, God? So anyway, I bought this doll because I was told to. So I was told in therapy to imagine yourself at this age when you're having a flashback. And what was happening was I couldn't remember anything in my childhood. It was all traumatic. I just could remember the love of my nanny and poppy, my beloved nanny and poppy. I just remembered their love. I couldn't remember anything. So when I was holding my doll, when I was having a flashback, I'm like, but you're not in this picture. So what I ended up doing was, all right, who do I love more than anything on this earth besides Stacey? My children. So my daughter, who is my best friend, you know, she's my heart and soul. So I would remember what it felt like to hold Lexi. And the minute I could connect with that feeling of holding my beautiful baby girl, I switched it and I said, that's you. So my doll, when I call her Namastasia. So when I hold her, that's me. And I listen to Disney songs, and that's how I'm healing. And the minute I discovered that, I'm like, there's no shame. I have my doll in my backpack. I bring her everywhere because when I have these little triggers, I don't give a shit. There's no shame in my game. Call me beautiful, crazy if you want, but I'm healing. I'm healing my inner child. So I pull her out and I don't care. And that worked for me. That worked for Stacey. I made it fun because I'm not going to do it if it's not fun. Was trauma therapy fun? Was healing my inner child fun? No. But you know what? I made it fun. Absolutely.
I could make you a Stacey doll. I used to make rag dolls, and I'd try to make them look like somebody.
I would love it. Yes.
Yeah. And
Yes,
just let me
it's
know what
not-
size you want, because I can like make him like life size almost, and I can make them small. And I got carried away at one point, and they were just like getting bigger and bigger. It
Oh
was
my
so
God.
fun.
I would love it because Namastasia is a mermaid who believes she's a queen in her own kingdom. And that's my imagination. And people are like, okay. And I'm like, get out of my own lane then. Stay in your own lane. This is my path. And I'm having so much fun because I honor her every day. Every day. It's beautiful.
I made a doll and gave it to a man that was severely burnt all over his body in a job accident. And it happened way before my husband had met him. And I used my husband's old work clothes because they're welders and they have specific kind of jackets and things. And I used his jeans and his welding jacket, and I made this little doll. It's probably like, I don't know. And I sewed him in a hat. I mean, everything. And
Wow.
I used like pens and like make the face and stuff. And I gave it to, I had my husband send it to work to this guy, because he now tours around and he gives talks on safety
Yes.
because of his accident.
Wow.
And he told me later, and he'll contact my husband every now and then, and said, I forget what he named him. He gave him a name, and he takes that doll everywhere with him when he does his talks.
Will you make me Namastasia? I would be
Yeah.
honored if you'd make
Yeah.
Namastasia.
Yeah. Draw me just a generic picture of kind of like who you see, how you see yourself, like even the style clothing, the hair and stuff. And I'll come up with something. I'll get your address later, mail it to you. I haven't done it in years. It was just a fun thing I did.
I'm all about having fun. Oh, I'm so excited. Thank you. Thank you.
So, and the age too, kind of give me like an age like you want her to be. You know, I can kind of gear the facial and the body. And
so here's the funny thing, and I'm sure you know the same thing. When you do release your inner child, you know, people will call it multiple personality disorder because that's the imagination in your head. So I have a picture. My whole wall is literally dedicated to me because I bashed myself my entire life. I was my own worst enemy. My wall is literally pictures of Stacey, me, in these moments when there's so much joy on my face. So it's like at any moment, whatever personality I want to feel that day, I might be bitchy, I might be happy, I may be whatever I am. It's like I just go back to that time and that child whenever I'm in that moment, and it's just magical. It's like I'm like my one-woman circus because my husband's like, let's see, out of all your personalities, one might be certifiably crazy. And I'm like, I like that shit crazy. That's okay.
yeah, and you know, and the drinking, you know, you don't have to, and people don't have to turn to drugs and alcohol because we got batshit crazy over here.
Love.
This creative space that just lets us have fun and let loose and do something we really enjoy.
Yes. Yeah. Like Dr. Wayne Dyer says, make it the most amazing life you can imagine. And that's what I've done. I mean, it's crazy because in my book, I wrote that I'm doing what I'm doing right now. Yeah, I'm the co-creator of my life. I mean, I co-created this amazing, magical life, and I'm having fun and I'm sharing and I'm serving. You know, I got COVID from the homeless shelter that I serve at. I do Reiki, I do tapping, and I'm like, really? You could have,
yeah, right. I know that feeling. We gave away a puppy a year ago and somebody couldn't keep it anymore. So we brought it back with our 2 dogs. And this dog had just been in a kennel, so it wasn't socialized. And it was getting out. It killed 100 of our chickens. It killed about 20 ducks. And then it started killing our sheep.
Oh my gosh.
You know, and so it reminded me of taking in foster kids because you can have a wonderful home and everything set and working just like clockwork, and you bring in something that just like tears up your world, and you will pay for it, and you're like, but I was trying to help.
Yep. But just like Dr. Dyer says, what are you trying to teach me here? 18 months ago, that's when I switched the flip this, whatever. See, the brain fog is so bad, but then I'm literally like, instead of the pity party again, I'm like, what are you trying to teach me now? Seriously. And even on my darker days, that's when I learn the most, because that's when I'm willing to go 9 rounds with rock and be like, come on, after what I've survived, bring it on. You can't, I am so in tune with my spirit guides and my God. You can't, you can't come after me anymore. And that's the whole near-death experience. That's, every minute of the day, I am so grateful for that. Whatever it was, whatever people want to call it, I don't care. All I know is I'm living a life beyond my wildest dreams, and it's just magical. And people need to see that everything's within them. See that.
And it's stepping out of the fear and stepping out of the anxiety.
Have to live in the moment. Live for today. Don't worry about tomorrow. And I know it sounds so unrealistic. My husband keeps me grounded because I'm in the clouds all day long. This is me all day long. Like I'm literally flying around like Tinkerbell with my magical flying unicorn, who's also named Namastasia. And people are like, okay, I don't care. Yeah. I don't care.
If it works, I mean, that creative place is a healing power.
Yes.
And I return to that. If I get depressed or something, I remember, oh yeah, get creative again. Find something that I enjoy creative. Because it came to me one day, I was taking the dog out early and it was still dark out. It was early in the morning. And I just stepped off the porch into the yard, and all of a sudden, like this knowing and this voice come. And it was something like, depression doesn't happen without giving us a rescue, and creativity is that rescue.
1000%. There's a spiritual solution to every problem. That's what Dr. Wayne Dyer says, who I call him my fairy godfather. I've never met the man. I don't know. A year ago, I couldn't tell you who he was, but yet his videos, his books, oh my gosh, they've changed everything. And he's my fairy godfather. I don't know. It's just like you have that inner wisdom. You have that path that is so illuminated for you. You know where to go because you have that knowing inside. Again, at any moment, all right, why did this happen? All right, there's a solution. Fix it. Don't freak out like I used to. Don't numb it, Stacey, like I used to.
Exactly.
Step out of your comfort zone.
Exactly. We were habitual numbers.
Horrible. We were our own worst enemies, and it breaks my heart because I have so many friends that are so broken inside. And the saddest part is yesterday, one of my girlfriends said to me, and this is what was the worst part for me when I cried after my book launch because I didn't feel worthy. I'm the type of person who would never say, I'm drowning. So I'm very sarcastic. I'm very funny. This is how I get through life. It's a coping mechanism for me. Laughter is the best medicine for me. So over Christmas time, I reached out to a few of my girlfriends and I'm like, I am hanging on by tinsel. You know what they said? Figure it out. We need you. But so I had to take my ego out and I said, I was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. I needed help. And they're like, Stacey, you never need help. I'm like, that's how you see me? Right. That's how everyone sees you. And I said, oh, hell no. I needed friggin' help. I was literally, the beginning of January, I was on my knees sobbing hysterically because I could not function. I could not breathe. I was having a panic attack. I was having a flashback of my childhood. My husband is normally home holding me because I could not be left alone, was holding me. And I was by myself. And I literally reached out to a family member for the first time. And I said, I'm having a nervous breakdown. I don't know what to do. You know what that person said to me? You are a mom. Figure it out.
People are lazy. They don't want to take the time to help somebody.
Wow. Wow. And in that moment, I looked up at God and I said, I can't do this anymore. What do you want me to do? And he said, you ask for help on earth, not with me, because you've got me. At that moment, I called my girlfriend, Lisa, in the UK, and I cried for 5 minutes, and that's all I needed. I unblocked. And that all I needed was someone to listen. You know that meme? Linda, listen, Linda, listen. I'm like, listen. I'm going batshit crazy. Can one person listen? Kenny, my husband, always listens, but he's at work. in that moment, I had one person that I needed, and that's all I needed.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just that human contact of someone to say, I care. And, my husband got a bad diagnosis a couple of weeks ago. I've called family, I've called friends, I've talked to people on Facebook. I'm like, somebody help me, help me, help me. I'm losing my husband, help me. And all I got was, thanks for calling, or keep us informed, or
I'll send you some stuff.
you know what I mean?
That's bullshit.
But the other day, my husband's I was in the truck, and I'm facing, the windshield. My dog's in the back behind me. And slowly, I started welling up. My dog jumped up out of what was probably asleep, put his chin right here and pushed it under my chin, lifted my chin up and started licking my face. And I'm like, that is the best medicine I have got. I have tried reaching out to everybody, and my dog just took care of me, and I feel better now. Not that I won't cry again, but it was like, that's what I needed.
Yes, a connection. I needed
somebody to say, person. I see you.
Yes.
Put my chin up and lick my tears.
Yes.
And it just I just melted. My husband saw it. He's like, wow.
That's unconditional love. And that's what animals do. My pits have such a bad rap. My amazing pit, Sammy, who is vicious, they say, that unconditional love, but we need that connections on earth. We're supernatural. I say we're superheroes because I do believe this is supernatural. We still need that human connection from one person that isn't like, yeah, I'll fix you. Can I have $300? No. One person that say, I hear you. Your dog, friggin' masturbate, release the oxytocin on your own, whatever you fucking have to do. But I needed a human connection. And that changed everything, because the minute that happened, the next day, I went to a soul circle where I do my Reiki, and there was a bunch of women I'd never met before. I brought my doll. I started crying. I admitted my sobriety. I've never done that in public. And everything shifted after that. The most amazing women have been brought into my life. I met you. People have reached out. I'm doing podcasts. People are like, tell me more. Peggy, I didn't know my worth. I didn't. And now because of my trauma healing, oh my God, my life is worthy. And it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. My power is my voice. What I survived is going to be someone else's survival story. It's going to give them permission to say, let me think twice before I'm diagnosed with lupus. Wait a minute, I've got implants? No, I'm not going to take that medication. Let me get a second opinion. Let me go down the holistic route and go see a functional medicine doctor. Let me go see a Reiki practitioner before they get
a dog and let them lick your face.
Hell yes. Yes. We have literally self-healing and self-love will solve all of your fucking problems. That's all it is. You have the power within you. But I did not know that until I walked through the hell that I walked through. Now I see anyone can have this. You just have to do the work, because it's the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Who is willing to look in the mirror with all your flaws and your mistakes and your catastrophes that you did and say, wow, girl, you fucked up, but I love your ass. Wow, I love you. It took 18 months of hell, but I'm on the other side. And because I was so grateful, and gratitude, I wear a bracelet for a year now. Gratitude changes everything. Because of the gratitude, because of the willingness to say, yes, I did a lot of things to myself. I was my own worst enemy. That changed everything. And women need to hear that. Women need to take their power back. And I hate to say I'm a nobody, but I am. I'm just a nobody. No one knows who I am, but God called me to deliver the most beautiful message, and I'm just getting started.
And I think sometimes we look for justice as far as, winning, making somebody understand. And we don't realize that it's in here, that we find our own justice, that we become our own hero in our own story.
You have to. It's funny. And here's a synchronicity, because I'm all about the synchronicities. In my chapter, I quoted Brene Brown: owning our story and loving ourselves through the process is the bravest thing we'll ever do. My chapter is Reiki is better than sex. Spirituality is seriously that connection with my inner wisdom, my divine source, is better than words can't even come close to describing the unconditional love that what it's like. It's miraculous. It's magic.
Levitating.
Huh. Girl, I'm flying around like Tinkerbell. Yeah. Yes. It's magical. It's everything. It's everything that they say it is, but yet you and I don't want the fame. I don't want the glory. I just want to be happy. And that's success to me. I had the $1 million home. I had the Mercedes. I could have been on the Real Housewives of New Jersey. I had that lifestyle. 7 years ago, I walked away. A week after I left my husband, I met my future husband. 7 years ago. I just wanted to hook up. I just wanted some, what I'm going to say. Anyway, I just wanted to hook up. And I prayed to God every night. I fell asleep crying for 3 years, every night, saying, I want a soul connection, God. And I did add Latin lover. I said, God, I want a Latin lover with a soul connection. And this amazing, beautiful human, for 7 years, I was on my deathbed more oftentimes than not in the last 4 years that I've recovered from. And it was because of him. But I had the will to live, and I had the God brought him into my life so I could say, I'm ready to heal. The minute I said I was ready, the stars aligned and God brought this beautiful human into my life, and I had to become my own hero. I had to lose everything. I walked away from that marriage with nothing. It's a multimillionaire. I had nothing. I don't want it. I just chose happy.
I think we forget to ask. Sometimes we just got to ask God and point blank what we need. And we forget to ask. We're too busy being upset about it, mad at God about it, and don't stop and ask and say what we need.
And what do you want? I wanted happy. I wanted inner peace. I didn't want the $1 million. I wanted happy. And I wanted to write a book. And I wanted to be on podcasts and share my story. I'm living my dream life. If you want to open an ice cream store, go open it. Don't die with your music in you. I was about to die, not only with my music in me, with my sadness in me. How tragic is that?
Right.
I had a breakdown this morning with my husband. I had another flashback. I was sitting on the couch 4 years ago, and I looked at my husband and I said, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to be here anymore, because I couldn't imagine living life without numbing. And I had the emotions, and I was sobbing because 5 minutes prior, I looked at my husband and I said, do you realize right now we're in the woods, we're in our happy place, you and I, no makeup, pitching a fire, sleeping under the stars. And I started sobbing. And as far as I've come, I never believed I could live a life this good. And I was about to die without knowing life could be this beautiful. That's a tragedy. And I did it all to myself. I was an idiot. And looking back now, it had to happen this way because God's like, oh, honey, you got a big mouth. Go. Just share. Don't worry about the money. Don't worry. Go to the homeless shelter. Those women need you. I heal when I go there. They heal me. Like I hug, and I hugged. I shouldn't have hugged with the Rona going on. But this woman was sobbing. She's like, you listened. And I said, may I hug you? And I got the Rona. But do you know what? It was worth it, because look what I did for another human being. Oh my God. Every morning when I wake up, God, where do you want me to serve? That's all I do. and I'm living a life beyond my wildest dreams because my success is inner peace and happiness. I don't care about anything else. I don't. We get in our truck, drive into the mountains, and I'm home. That's home. This is not home. I can feel that I'm home, but for me, I'm in the woods pitching a tent with my husband, him, the dog, and just me. That's living. That
Awesome.
is living.
Well, I wish you the best of luck and keep on what you're doing. And maybe a little drawing and take a picture of it, send it to me, and I'll see what I come up with.
I am so thankful. Thank you so much for this opportunity. This was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on. Bye-bye.
Bye.